Hello, online world and family. This message is for anyone who is endeavoring to do anything great, whether you are just getting started or whether you're already in the mix. There's a great lesson in Matthew 14, and if you're unfamiliar, let me get you up to speed. So, Jesus and the disciples are on land, and Christ tells the disciples to cross over the sea on a boat. They get on the boat, they're in the middle of the sea, and it says that actually it's already pretty windy. They're getting tossed. However, Christ, who's coming later, approaches the boat walking on the waves of the sea. They look out, they're thinking, look, there's no way anyone's walking on water. This must be a ghost, and they're afraid. And Christ says, no, it's actually me. So then Peter, one of the disciples, says, well, if it is you, then bid me to come. And so Christ says, come. So as Peter steps out of the boat, he begins walking on the water. And of course, it's a windy day, as the scripture already says. And he feels that wind. He sees the wind coming, and he begins to sink. The scripture actually says he's afraid, and he saw that the winds are boisterous, and he begins to sink. And so he cries out, Lord, save me. And then Christ actually lifts him up. Here's the thing. When we're learning about this in the scripture, in church, most of the time the focus is on Peter being distracted. Somehow he took his eyes off of Jesus, and that's why he starts to sink. But when I looked up what it meant to be afraid, that he was afraid because the winds were boisterous, it actually meant to be afraid or to be seized by fear. And I realized that the reason that Peter actually started to sink was because he was feeling all the feels that he was feeling in the boat. However, he allowed the fear to seize him. He literally stopped moving. So, this is a message for all of us. When you're being called to do something great, when you're being called to step out of the boat and do something that looks to be impossible, number one, the divine will not ask you to do something that it has not already done, it has not already equipped you to do. The fact that Christ was walking on the water was to show Peter and the disciples that it can be done. And then the divine is actually beckoning him to join itself in the miraculous work. But sometimes the same circumstances that we had when we were in our place of safety, when we step out of the boat and we start to walk in boldness, can begin to feel boisterous to us. And then if we allow the fear that comes to seize us and we stop moving in the direction of what we're called to move in, then we begin to sink. It's not about necessarily taking your eyes off of Christ. It's not necessarily about the winds being boisterous. It's about the fear that seizes you and causes you to stop your forward movement. Who knows what would have happened if even in the midst of the fear, Peter would have continued walking. In my mind, I imagine that he would have went and joined Christ, and they probably would have held hands or something on the way back to the boat. Who knows? But what we do know is that fear seized him. He stopped moving, and that's when he began to sink. Don't allow fear to seize you. Take courage. When the winds are boisterous, you've experienced this before. The only difference is now you're walking in the miraculous. Keep moving. Have a loving and blessed day.